Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So reading from Canto 1, Chapter 9, Text 38. The chapter is The Passing Away of Bhishmadev.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Lord.
Text 38. May He, Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead who awards salvation, be my ultimate destination. On the battlefield, He charged me as if angry because of the wounds dealt by my sharp arrows. His shield was scattered and his body was smeared with blood due to the wounds. Purport. The dealings of Lord Krishna and Bhishmadev on the battlefield of Kurukshetra are interesting because the activities of Lord Sri Krishna appear to be partial to Arjuna and an enmity of Bhishmadev. But factually, all this was especially meant to show a special favour to Bhishmadev, a great devotee of the Lord. The astounding feature of such dealings is that a devotee can please the Lord by playing the part of an enemy. The Lord, being absolute, can accept service from his pure devotee even in the garb of an enemy. The Supreme Lord cannot have any enemy, nor can a so-called enemy harm him, because he is Ajita or unconquerable. But still he takes pleasure when his pure devotee beats him like an enemy or rebukes him from a superior position, although no one can be superior to the Lord. These are some of the transcendental reciprocatory feelings of the devotee with the Lord, and those who have no information of pure devotional service cannot penetrate into the mystery of such dealings. Bhishmadev played the part of a valiant warrior, and he purposefully pierced the body of the Lord, so that to the common eyes it appeared that the Lord was wounded. But factually all this was to bewilder the non-devotees. The all-spiritual body cannot be wounded, and a devotee cannot become the enemy of the Lord. Had it been so, Bhishmadev would not have desired to have the very same Lord as the ultimate destination of his life. Had Bhishmadev been an enemy of the Lord Krishna could have annihilated him without even moving. There was no need to come before Bhishmadev with blood and wounds, but he did so because the warrior devotee wanted to see the transcendental beauty of the Lord decorated with wounds created by a pure devotee. This is the way of exchanging transcendental rasa, or relations between the Lord and the servitor. By such dealings, both the Lord and the devotee become glorified in their respective positions. The Lord was so angry that Arjuna checked him when he was moving towards Bhishmadev. But in spite of Arjuna's checking, he proceeded towards Bhishmadev as a lover goes to a lover without caring for hindrances. Apparently his determination was to kill Bhishmadev, but factually it was to please him as a great devotee of the Lord. The Lord is undoubtedly the deliverer of all conditioned souls. The impersonalists desire salvation from him, and he always awards them according to their aspiration. But here, Bhishmadev aspires to see the Lord in his personal feature. All pure devotees aspire for this.
Text 39. At the moment of death, let my ultimate attraction be to Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. I concentrate my mind upon the chariot driver of Arjuna, who stood with a whip in his right hand and bridle rope in his left, who was very careful to give protection to Arjuna's chariot by all means. Those who saw him on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attained their original forms after death. Purport. A pure devotee of the Lord constantly sees the presence of the Lord within himself because of being transcendentally related by loving service. Such a pure devotee cannot forget the Lord for a moment. This is called trance. The mystic yogi tries to concentrate upon the supersoul by controlling the senses from all other engagements, and thus he ultimately attains samadhi. A devotee more easily attains samadhi or trance by constantly remembering the Lord's personal feature, along with his holy name, fame, pastimes, etc. Therefore, the concentration of the mystic yogi and that of the devotees are not on the same level. The concentration of the mystic is mechanical, whereas that of the pure devotee is natural in pure love and spontaneous affection. Bhishmadev was a pure devotee, and as a military marshal, he constantly remembered the battlefield feature of the Lord as Parthasarathi, the chariot driver of Arjuna. Therefore, the Lord's pastime as Parthasarathi is also eternal. The pastimes of the Lord, beginning from his birth at the prison house of Kamsa up to the Moshala Leela at the end, all move one. Just try to reconnect. Pastimes of the Lord, beginning from his birth at the prison house of Kamsa up to the Moshala Leela at the end, all move one after another in all the universes, just as the clock hand moves from one point to another. And in such pastimes, his associates like the Pandavas and Bhishma are constant eternal companions. So, Bhishmadev never forgot the beautiful feature of the Lord as Parthasarathi, which even Arjuna could not see. Arjuna was behind the beautiful Parthasarathi, while Bhishmadev was just in front of the Lord. As far as the military feature of the Lord is concerned, Bhishmadev observed this with more relish than Arjuna.
All the soldiers and persons on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attain their original spiritual form like the Lord after their death, because by the causeless mercy of the Lord they were able to see him face to face on that occasion. The conditioned souls rotating in the evolutionary cycle from the aquatics up to the form of Brahma are all in the form of Maya, or the form obtained by one's own action and awarded by material nature. The material forms of the conditioned souls are all foreign dresses, and when the conditioned soul becomes liberated from the clutches of material energy, he attains his original form. The impersonalist wants to attain the impersonal Brahman effulgence of the Lord, but that is not at all congenial to the living sparks, parts and parcels of the Lord. Therefore, the impersonalists again fall down and get material forms, which are all false to the spirit soul. A spiritual form like the Lord's, either two-handed or four-handed, is attained by the devotees of the Lord, either in the Vaikunthas or in the Goloka planet, according to the original nature of the soul. This form, which is 100% spiritual, is the Swarup of the living being, and all the living beings who participated on the battlefield at Kurukshetra on both sides attain their Swarup, as confirmed by Bhishmadev. So, Lord Sri Krishna was not merciful only to the Pandavas, he was also merciful to the other parties, because all of them attained the same result. Bhishmadev wanted the same facility also, and that was his prayer to the Lord. Although his position as an associate of the Lord is assured in all circumstances. The conclusion is that whoever dies looking on the personality of Godhead, within or without, attains his Swarup, which is the highest perfection of life.
Yeah. Text 40. Let my mind be fixed upon Lord Sri Krishna, whose motions and smiles of love attracted the damsels of Brajdam, the gopis. The damsels imitated the characteristic movements of the Lord after his disappearance from the rasa dance. Purport. By intense ecstasy and loving service, the damsels of Brajbhumi attained qualitative oneness with the Lord by dancing with him on an equal level, embracing him in nuptial love, smiling at him in joke, and looking at him with a loving attitude. The relation of the Lord with Arjuna is undoubtedly praiseworthy for devotees like Bhishmadev, but the relation of the gopis with the Lord is still more praiseworthy because of their still more purified loving service. By the grace of the Lord, Arjuna was fortunate enough to have the fraternal service of the Lord as chariot driver, but the Lord did not award Arjuna with equal strength. The gopis, however, practically became one with the Lord by attainment of equal footing with the Lord. Bhishma's aspiration to remember the gopis is a prayer to have their mercy also at the last stage of his life. The Lord is satisfied more when his pure devotees are glorified, and therefore Bhishma Dev has not only glorified the acts of Arjuna, his immediate object of attraction, but also remembered the gopis, who were endowed with unrivaled opportunities for rendering loving service to the Lord. The gopis' equality with the Lord should never be misunderstood to be like the Sayuja liberation of the impersonalist. The equality is one of perfect ecstasy, where the differential conception is completely eradicated, for the interests of the lover and the beloved become identical.
Text 41. At the Rajasuya Yajna sacrifice performed by Maharaj Yudhishthira, there was the greatest assembly of all the elite men of the world, the royal and learned orders. And in that great assembly, Lord Sri Krishna was worshipped by one and all as the most exalted personality of Godhead. This happened during my presence, and I remembered the incident in order to keep my mind upon the Lord. After gaining victory in the battle of Kurukshetra, Maharaj Yudhishthira, the emperor of the world, performed the Rajasuya sacrificial ceremony. The emperor in those days, upon his ascendance to the throne, would send a challenge horse all over the world to declare his supremacy. And any ruling prince or king was at liberty to accept the challenge and express his tacit willingness either to obey or to disobey the supremacy of the particular emperor. One who accepted the challenge had to fight with the emperor and establish his own supremacy by victory. The defeated challenger would have to sacrifice his life, making a place for another king or ruler. So Maharaj Yudhishthira also dispatched such challenging horses all over the world. And every ruling prince and king all over the world accepted Maharaj Yudhishthira's leadership as the emperor of the world. After this, all rulers of the world under the regime of Maharaj Yudhishthira were invited to participate in the great sacrificial ceremony Rajasuya. Such performances required hundreds of millions of dollars, and it was not an easy job for a petty king. Such a sacrificial ceremony being too expensive and also difficult to perform under present circumstances is now impossible in this age of Kali. Nor can anyone secure the required expert priesthood to take charge of the ceremony.
So, after being invited, all the kings and great learned sages of the world assembled in the capital of Maharaj Yudhishthira. The learned society, including the great philosophers, religionists, physicians, scientists, and all great sages, was invited. That is to say, the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas were the topmost leading men in society, and they were all invited to participate in the assembly. The Vaishyas and Sudras were unimportant elements in society, and they are not mentioned herein. Due to the change of social activities in the modern age, the importance of men has also changed in terms of occupational positions.
So in that great assembly, Lord Sri Krishna was assigned Sanoja of neighbouring eyes. Everyone wanted to see Lord Krishna, and everyone wanted to pay his humble respects to the Lord. Bhishmadev remembered all this and was glad that his worshipful Lord, the personality of Godhead, was present before him in his actual formal presence. So to meditate on the Supreme Lord is to meditate on the activities, form, pastimes, name and fame of the Lord. That is easier than what is imagined as meditation on the impersonal feature of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita 12.5, it is clearly stated that to meditate upon the impersonal feature of the Supreme is very difficult. It is practically no meditation or simply a waste of time, because very seldom is the desired result obtained. The devotees, however, meditate upon the Lord's factual form and pastimes, and therefore the Lord is easily approachable by the devotees. This is also stated in the Bhagavad Gita 12.9. The Lord is non-different from his transcendental activities. It is indicated also in this sloka that Lord Sri Krishna, while actually present before human society, especially in connection with the battle of Kurukshetra, was accepted as the greatest personality of the time, although he might not have been recognized as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The propaganda that a very great man is worshipped as God after his death is misleading, because a man after his death cannot be made into God, nor can the personality of Godhead be a human being even when he is personally present. Both ideas are misconceptions. The idea of anthropomorphism cannot be applicable in the case of Lord Krishna.
Interesting, the next verse looks very poetic. Tam imam aham ajam sharira bhajam riddhi riddhi dishti tam atma kalpitanam pratidrisham eva naikadarkam ekam samadhi gatosmi viduta veda moha. Poetic. So, the verse, which is this? 42. Now I can meditate with full concentration upon the one Lord, Sri Krishna, now present before me, because now I have transcended the misconceptions of duality in regard to his presence in everyone's heart, even in the hearts of the mental speculators. He is in everyone's heart. The sun may be perceived differently, but the sun is one. Purport. Lord Sri Krishna is the one absolute supreme personality of Godhead, but he has expanded himself into his multiplenary portions by his inconceivable energy. The conception of duality is due to ignorance of his inconceivable energy. In the Bhagavad Gita 9:11, the Lord says that only the foolish take him to be a mere human being. Such foolish men are not aware of his inconceivable energies. By his inconceivable energy, he is present in everyone's heart, as the sun is present before everyone all over the world. The Paramatma feature of the Lord is an expansion of his plenary portions. He expands himself as Paramatma in everyone's heart by his inconceivable energy, and he also expands himself as the glowing effulgence of Brahma Jyoti by expansion of his personal glow. It is stated in the Brahma Samhita that the Brahma Jyoti is his personal glow. Therefore, there is no difference between him and his personal glow, Brahma Jyoti, or his plenary portions as Paramatma. Less intelligent persons who are not aware of this fact consider Brahma Jyoti and Paramatma to be different from Lord Sri Krishna. The misconception of duality is completely removed from the mind of Bhishma Dev, and he is now satisfied that it is Lord Sri Krishna only who is all in everything. This enlightenment is attained by the great Mahatmas or devotees, as it is stated in Bhagavad Gita 7:19. As it is stated in Bhagavad Gita 7:19, that Vasudev is all in everything, and that there is no existence of anything without Vasudev. Vasudev is Lord Sri Krishna. Vasudev or Lord Sri Krishna is the original Supreme Person, as now confirmed by a Mahajan, and therefore both the neophytes and the pure devotees must try to follow in his footsteps. That is the way of the devotional line.
The worshipful object of Bhishmadev is Lord Sri Krishna as Parthasarathi, and that of the gopis is the same Krishna in Vrindavan as the most attractive, Sham Sundar. Sometimes less intelligent scholars make a mistake and think that the Krishna of Vrindavan and that of the Battle of Kurukshetra are different personalities. But for Bhishmadev, this misconception is completely removed. Even the impersonalist object of destination is Krishna as the impersonal deity, and the yogi's destination of Paramatma is also Krishna. Krishna is both Brahmajyoti and localized Paramatma. But in Brahmajyoti or Paramatma, there is no Krishna or sweet relations with Krishna. In his personal feature, Krishna is both Parthasarathi and Shamsundar of Vrindavan. But in his impersonal feature is neither in the Brahmajyoti nor in the Paramatma. Great Mahatmas like Bhishmadev realize all these different features of Lord Sri Krishna, and therefore they worship Lord Krishna, knowing him as the origin of all features.
Text 43. Sutta Goswami said, thus Bhishmadev merged himself in the Supersoul, Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, with his mind, speech, sight, and actions, and thus he became silent, and his breathing stopped. Jai Bhishmadev Mahajan Ki Jai. The stage attained by Bhishmadev while quitting his material body is called Nirvikalpa Samadhi, because he merged his self into thinking of the Lord and his mind into remembering his, the Lord's, different activities. He chanted the glories of the Lord, and by his sight he began to see the Lord personally present before him, and thus all his activities became concentrated upon the Lord without deviation. This is the highest stage of perfection, and it is possible for everyone to attain. this stage by practice of devotional service. The devotional service of the Lord consists of 9 principal service activities, and they are hearing, chanting, remembering, serving the lotus feet, worshipping, praying, executing the orders, fraternizing, and fully surrendering. Any one of them or all of them are equally competent to award the desired result, but they require to be practiced persistently under the guidance of an expert devotee of the Lord. The first item, hearing, is the most important item of all, and therefore hearing of the Bhagavad Gita and later on Srimad Bhagavatam is essential for the serious candidate who wants to attain the stage of Bhishmadev at the end. The unique situation at Bhishmadev's time of death can be attained, even though Lord Sri Krishna may not be personally present. His words of the Bhagavad Gita or those of Srimad Bhagavatam are identical with the Lord. They are sound incarnations of the Lord, and one can fully utilize them to be entitled to attain the stage of Sri Bhishmadev, who was one of the 8 Vasus. Either man or animal, every man or animal must die at a certain stage of life, but one who dies like Bhishmadev attains perfection, and one who dies forced by the laws of nature dies like an animal. That is the difference between a man and an animal. The human form of life is especially meant for dying like Bhishmadev.
Text 44. Knowing that Bhishmadev had merged into the unlimited eternity of the Supreme Absolute, all present there became silent like birds at the end of the day. Purport. To enter into or to become merged into the unlimited eternity of the Absolute, Supreme Absolute means to enter the original home of the living being. The living beings are all component parts and parcels of the Absolute Personality of Godhead, and therefore they are eternally related with him as the servitor and the served. The Lord is served by all his parts and parcels as a complete machine is served by its parts and parcels. Any part of the machine removed from the whole is no longer important. Similarly, any part and parcel of the Absolute detached from the service of the Lord is useless. The living beings who are in the material world are all disintegrated parts and parcels of the Supreme Whole, and they are no longer as important as the original parts and parcels. There are, however, more integrated living beings who are eternally liberated. The material energy of the Lord, called Durga Shakti, or the superintendent of the prison house, takes charge of the disintegrated parts and parcels, and thus they undergo a conditioned life under the laws of material nature. When the living being becomes conscious of this fact, he tries to go back home, back to Godhead, and thus the spiritual urge of the living being begins. This spiritual urge is called Brahma Jignasa, or inquiry about Brahman. Principally, this Brahma Jignasa is successful by knowledge, renunciation, and devotional service to the Lord. Gyan or knowledge means knowledge of everything of Brahman, the Supreme. Renunciation means detachment of material affection, and devotional service is the revival by practice of the original position of the living being. The successful living beings who are eligible to enter into the realm of the Absolute are called the Jnanis, the Yogis, and the Bhaktas. The Jnanis and Yogis enter into the impersonal rays of the Supreme, but the Bhaktas enter into the spiritual planets, known as the Vaikunthas. In these spiritual planets, the Supreme Lord as Narayan predominates, and the healthy, unconditioned living beings live there by rendering loving service to the Lord in the capacity of servant, friend, parents, and fiancé. There, the unconditioned living beings enjoy life in full freedom with the Lord, whereas the impersonalist Jnanis and Yogis enter into the impersonal glowing effulgence of the Vaikuntha planets. The Vaikuntha planets are all self-illuminating like the sun, and the rays of the Vaikuntha planets are called the Brahmajyoti. The Brahmajyoti spread unlimitedly, and the material world is but a covered portion of an insignificant part of the same Brahmajyoti. This covering is temporary, and therefore it is a sort of illusion.
Bhishmadev, as a pure devotee of the Lord, entered the spiritual realm in one of the Vaikuntha planets, where the Lord in his eternal form of Parthasarthi predominates over the unconditioned living beings who are constantly engaged in the service of the Lord. The love and affection which bind the Lord and the devotee are exhibited in the case of Bhishmadev. Bhishmadev never forgot the Lord in his transcendental feature as the Parthasarthi, and the Lord was present personally before Bhishmadev while he was passing to the transcendental world. That is the highest perfection of life.
Text 45. Thereafter, both men and demigods sounded drums in honor, and the respect and the honest royal order commenced demonstration of honor and respect. And from the sky fell showers of flowers. Purport. Bhishmadev was respected both by the human beings and by the demigods. The human beings live on Earth and similar other planets in the Bur and Burva group of planets, but the demigods live in the Swa, or heavenly planets, and all of them knew Bhishmadev as a great warrior and devotee of the Lord. As a Mahajan, or authority, he was on the level of Brahma, Narada, and Shiva, although he was a human being. Qualification on a par with the great demigods is possible only on attainment of spiritual perfection. Thus, Bhishmadev was known all over the universes, and during his time, interplanetary travel was effected by finer methods than the futile endeavors of a mechanical spacecraft. When the distant planets were informed of the passing away of Bhishmadev, all the inhabitants of the upper planets as well as of the earth dropped showers of flowers to show due respect to the departed great personality. This showering of flowers from heaven is a sign of recognition by great demigods, and should never be compared to the decoration of a dead body. The body of Bhishmadev lost its material effects due to being surcharged with spiritual realization, and thus the body was spiritualized as when iron becomes red hot when in contact with fire. The body of a fully self-realized soul is not therefore accepted as material. Special ceremonies are observed for such spiritual bodies. The respect and recognition of Bhishmadev are never to be imitated by artificial means, as it has become a fashion to observe a so-called Jayanti ceremony for any and every common man. According to authorized sastras, such a Jayanti ceremony for an ordinary man, however exalted he may be, materially is an offense to the Lord, because Jayanti is reserved for the day when the Lord appears on the earth. Bhishmadev was unique in his activities, and his passing away to the kingdom of God is also unique.
Yeah. Okay, so that's it. Interesting last part. So we're coming to the conclusion. So tomorrow, theoretically, we should finish this chapter. Thank you all for tuning in.
Hare Krishna.